So one of the forerunners in today's wireless audio technology, it has to be Sonos. Sonos has absolutely nailed wireless audio, has elegant design, seamless integration, and rock-solid sound from most of its products. But as a daily user, a content creator and reviewer, and I review a lot of Sonos if you know, I found myself wanting just a little bit more out of Sonos. Not louder, not flashier, just more flexibility and tuned for how real people actually use their systems. So here's my wish list. There are 8 features that I think Sonos should seriously consider for the next half of 2025. It's July now, half the year of 2025 has gone. So some are for better sound, others are for better control. All of them are based on me living with Sonos every single day. Now, before we jump into the list, a very quick update. I have not been updating my videos as frequently and as regularly as want to. There are things happening in life, right? We recently lost our live-in helper, so it's been a real adjustment. I've taken over the laundry, household routines, and at the same time, work has been mounting on full on, right? Because we need to meet targets. So if uploads have slowed down a bit, that's the reason. But I'm still here, I'm still testing, and I'm still listening. And today's video, it is really the result of me using Sonos every single day, day in and day out, even when I'm folding my laundry. Without further ado, first feature. Now, the first thing that came to my mind all this time when I'm busy at home, staying at home a lot more, trying to do household chores, is the music. I need music at home. It's always playing in the background or I'm listening to them on the Sonos Ace headphones. And in the last update video for the Sonos Ace, I mentioned a feature which is walkie-talkie mode. Now, what does that do? If you have a pair of Sonos headphones, you could be moving around the house. I could be doing my laundry in the yard at the back and I'm wearing this and my wife could be watching TV. Yeah, usually it's that way around. And she can talk to me. I don't have to take off my headphones and she can still communicate to me. Actually, maybe not such a great idea, but you get where I'm trying to, right? Because everything, all the Sonos devices when it's at home is connected via Wi-Fi to one another, right? So the whole conversation can still keep going regardless of where you are in a house without you having to shout. And if you are listening to music, of course, you're not going to be hearing anything. I'm just wondering whether it's that great an idea to have that voice next to your ear constantly. Oh my God, maybe scratch that. So as you know, Sonos actually last time they used to be able to control the volume of the system via the hardware volume rocker on your phone device, but they have since taken it away. It was more a function on Apple's side, not making that feature, not making that hardware button available to third-party software. I wish they could bring it back somehow one way or another because I do miss having the direct control without having to relaunch the app and slide or even reaching out for the TV remote, which arguably is easy enough, but if you're listening to music and if you're on Spotify, then maybe you cannot do that unless you're connected via Bluetooth, but Bluetooth is not the Sonos way. The Sonos way is Wi-Fi streaming with much higher quality. If you're going through Bluetooth, the quality isn't that great. If you are listening on the Sonos Ace headphones, yes, surely you can control using the hardware button because the hardware button does control the Bluetooth volume, just not for the app itself. Now, moving on a little bit more to how things sound like on Sonos. Now, Sonos, like I said, the sound is great, right? The sound profile, if you love it, you will love it. From day one, when I tested it out in the store, right until today, I bought it because I like the sound profile. But of late and when I started this channel, I do realize that the DSP on Sonos is a little bit aggressive and it does tune the sound and change the sound quite a bit. Not in an unpleasant way, it is still great, it still sounds freaking solid when you're watching movies, but let's say you want to hear something authentic. I want to be able to quickly access different EQ profile. Now, Sonos allows you to adjust the bass and the treble, and there's a loudness switch. But that is about it, right? But what I really want to do is for Sonos to implement a parametric EQ. where you can select the frequency that you want to adjust, because depending on your room, you may have different requirements, that there are specific frequencies that you want to boost or you want to bring down, depending on the room, right? Because not every room is well treated. So you do want the parametric EQ. 2 bands is hardly sufficient. Go for a 5-band or a 7-band parametric EQ, or, better still, let you cater to whatever you want, because you may have a soundbar, you may have 1 or even 2 subwoofers dedicated to your system, and you want to be able to adjust the sound to your liking. Now, following from there, the fourth feature that I want to talk about is a Pro Audio mode. Now, we do know that the DSP is pretty aggressive, but I do wish that Sonos has a way for us to skip the DSP completely and have the sound play as is from the recording, right? So what it does, it bypasses the DSP, the loudness compensation, and the EQ, and it gives you a pure unprocessed output. Why? Because it is ideal for reviewers. It sets up a reference system, and then you can hear it exactly as it was mastered. It's not to say that Sonos equipment or Sonos hardware is capable of playing flat sound in an exciting way, but it is one way to reference any changes that Sonos is making. So maybe this feature is not for everybody. If you are buying into Sonos, you may not want that flat profile, which is possibly not very exciting. So we've done 3, which is custom EQ, and we've done the 4th feature, which is Pro Audio mode. So let's get away sound for a moment and move into the home theater territory. So we do know, right, that the Sonos S2 app, or rather the whole Sonos system, they have something called TruePlay. And TruePlay is available for Apple users, where you are able to use the mic on Apple devices, which are, as a Sonos knows the calibration for, and it allows room tuning. There's some room correction that's happening using the onboard mic. So the Sonos system will play some sounds through its speakers. The mic on the iPhone will listen out to the sound and see whether your room is making any changes to the sound, and it corrects it automatically to the standard that Sonos wants you to experience. But it is limiting because, for one, TruePlay, the full flavor version of TruePlay, is not available for Android. So apparently Sonos thinks that there are too many Android variants out there, and it is not possible to have the mic profiles for all the different Android versions out there. Well, because it's kind of like open source. So one way to get around this is for Sonos to allow an external mic, right? Some of the more popular mics can be adapted. I am using a U-Mic DSP-1. This is a very well-known mic that is used for home theater calibration. If you could connect that through an iPhone or through an Android device, or even your PC or your Mac, you could actually use this external mics for calibration of the sound. So TruePlay can then depend on that. Right now, until today, the only mic that's going to be used is something from Apple and nothing else from there. So besides the external mic, the other thing that we want to play around for home theater is feature number 6, right? Spatial audio intensity control. Well, the spatial audio, the 3D audio, the Atmos capable soundbars, they are of a great experience. Now, in between laundry loads, I'm actually sitting down on my couch and enjoying some movies these days. And I do think that the Atmos effects, the spatial audio, is actually great, right? So don't get me wrong, when the door slams in the movie, I actually thought that somebody was slamming the door in my house. But I got pissed at that. I don't like people slamming doors, but I digress, right? So what I'm trying to say is that if you do not want that kind of spatial immersion, you could dial it down a bit. And if you do want more of that, which I think 90% of people who want this feature will want more of that, is to dial up the spatial audio intensity, especially if you don't have rear surrounds like the Era 300 position in your room. So if you could do that, you could actually expand the spatial audio soundstage a little bit more. It's not to say that it's not great enough, but depending on the room that you're in, you may want more of that. Now, then when we are talking about this, I have to talk about a point which I've been talking about for the last 5 years. Sonos feature number 7 request. Well, this is not in order, otherwise I'll put this as the first feature. Manual channel routing. Now, I do want to be able to put my old Sonos 5s in front of my TV to the left and to the right and have the audio for the left-right channel come out from there. In fact, if I wanted, I could dedicate one Sonos device for the center channel for the dialogue to come through, and Sonos should be able to route the dialogue from that speaker, and I could place it right front and center so that the dialogue gets locked into the middle. Now, I do have ceiling speakers here. I'm using the Sonos in-ceiling speaker. And how about I have Atmos channels coming out from those in-ceiling speakers instead of having the Sonos Arc or the Era 300 redirect the sound, bouncing it off the ceiling to reach me for the Atmos effects, right? I have those built in. I want Sonos to allow me to route the sounds to maybe a pair of the Sonos amps to drive my ceiling speakers. Come on, Sonos, give that to me. Now, on the last note, on the last feature that I want to talk about for the H2 of 2025, how about making dual sub support available for the minis? So a couple of years ago, Sonos actually started allowing the Sonos Sub 3 and the Sub 4 recently to be able to pair with another pair of Sonos devices, Sonos sub devices for dual sub pairing. It's not that you really need it, especially in a room of this size. You probably don't need it, but if you can have two sub, it's always better than one, right? I don't actually recommend it because a sub is expensive, $800. I don't think it brings about $800 of benefit because one sub is actually really good enough. But the Sub Mini, it has slightly lower output because it is smaller. It does go down to 25 Hz, same as the bigger sub. But what if I could have two Sub Minis instead of one big sub? Some people just don't have the space under the cabinet for a bigger sub unit. So if I have two Sub Minis, I could actually generate more, maybe, or at least the same amount of bass as a single Sub 4 unit. So dual sub support for Sub Mini, please. I think some of you may be asking for it. If you are, do leave a comment down in the comment section below. And if any of these features spike your interest, then maybe leave a comment down below. Make this video come to the attention of the Sonos engineers and see how many of these are going to be implemented. By the way, I did talk about the dual sub support for Sonos about 5 years ago in 2020, and subsequently it got implemented. So I know that the Sonos folks are actually listening to this channel. So the more support you have for this channel, for this video, the more it's going to get their attention. So maybe let's try that. And in the meantime, back to laundry, and I'll see you in one of my other videos.